I apologize, but due to the excessive wind noise, I had to overdub a small portion of the voice.
Hello, this is Evangelist Tim Collins coming to you again with our weekend word. I'm still in Andersonville, Georgia, site of the Andersonville National Historic Site, the infamous prisoner of war camp during the war between the states, where almost 13,000 people perished because of dysentery and lack of proper medical care, lack of shelter, and so forth. When the war was over, and there are parts of it you may not read in your history books because people who win the wars get to write the history books. But when the war was over, in 1865, Captain Wers, who was the commandant of the prisoner of war camp, was hanged in Washington, D.C. He was tried before a military tribunal who found him guilty of war crimes and was taken out and executed. Well, the story behind that, though, is that Captain Wers probably did the best he could with what he had. He had over 30,000 people in the prisoner of war camp at one time with no shelter, no provisions for them, and he didn't have adequate food for even his own soldiers and had to divide that with the prisoners. He tried to furlough some of the prisoners and couldn't do that very much because it created problems in the town. And so he tried to prisoner exchange, but General Grant stopped that because he knew that the prisoners of war were a tremendous burden to the South. They're using up their resources that they needed to fight the war with, so he wanted to keep them here. Captain Wers offered to send the prisoners of war back to the North if General Grant could provide transportation. Again, Grant refused.
So Commandant Wers probably did the best he could with what he had, but almost 13,000 soldiers had died in that camp under his command, and a scapegoat was needed. So he stood trial before a military tribunal in Washington, D.C., and then he was executed, probably unjustly.
Well, Jesus knew all about injustice. He was judged in a mockery of a trial, an illegal trial. He was condemned to death, even though Pilate pronounced him innocent, and he was crucified between two thieves who deserved to be crucified. Ironically, he was the only sinless man that ever lived. The Apostle Paul explained it this way in 2 Corinthians 5:21, God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. See, we don't have the capability to be truly righteous in the presence of a holy God, no matter how good our deeds are. Isaiah said it like this in Isaiah 64:6, all of us have become like one who is unclean, and all our righteous acts are like filthy rags. Some think that if in eternity God just weighs the good deeds we've done against the bad deeds we've done, if the good deeds outweigh the bad deeds, then we spend eternity in heaven with God. That's not the case. In fact, if that were all it took to be saved, then Jesus came to earth and was crucified for nothing, wasn't he? In order for us to be counted as righteous before God, God's Son, Jesus Christ, had to bear the blame, had to take the punishment for our sin. And thankfully, he did just that. Well, thank you for your time today. I hope that you'll be in church tomorrow and spend some quality time and worship God. Keep us in your prayers. God bless you. We love you.